Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I'm your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your Big 10 preview, week 7, I think, maybe 8. I don't know. You count 0, you don't count 0. I got a, is it an 8, 7, 8? It is 8. Southside Rowdy giving me the 8. Short slate, some great games to break down. It's funny, I had someone reach out to me already today, our producer, Kiefer. What did I say in August? Well, I'll replay that tape for everyone. You auto bet every week the Ohio State team total over, and you thank me later. They didn't cover week 1 against Notre Dame. They have blown by it every week since. I shouldn't say blown. There's been a couple that are close. Kind of comical, because obviously me and Riley are going to talk about this in a second. Ohio State versus Iowa. 29.5-point favorites. And under over a 49.5. Rounded up to, actually, let's backtrack. Iowa, team total 9.5. Ohio State 39.5. So if I asked you, the general public, what has an easier shot? What do you feel more comfortable with? Iowa getting the 10 or Ohio State getting the 40? I know what I would say, but we'll leave that to our expert in the Big 10, the one and only Mr. Riley Magnuson. Morning, sir.
Morning, my friend. Happy Friday. I am, as always, pumped to be here for the Big 10 Breakfast Bankroll, whatever you want to call it. Love these shows. There's only 5 games this weekend, but 2 of them I'm absolutely juiced for. The other 3 are at least worth talking about to some degree. So I'm ready to roll. I'm sure if we've got some time, we've got some other stuff to talk about. We went into the Sports Equinox last night. Astros up 2-0 in that series over there. I mean, a nice evening of sports. Nothing too crazy, but Cardinals get back on the right track on Thursday Night Football. I didn't have too much. You and I with the anytime touchdown scorer props on the closing bell. I mean, I thought I was living large with my Taysom Hill pick, and then you get Mr. Dortch in the end zone in the second half there. I mean, that one was I saw some people had some goofy parlays with him in it that got them some big numbers. So kudos to you for that suggestion as well. But yeah, we'll move into the Big 10 today. You've got some UFC picks coming up this afternoon that I'm excited for. It's a huge UFC card this weekend as well. So I'm excited for everything sports related. We've obviously got a whole slate of Friday NBA as well. So of course, it's a Big 10 show. That's where we'll get going first and foremost. But nonetheless, I'm happy to be here, and I'm ready to roll wherever we'd like to go, my friend.
And we'll talk in between here after or whatever, because we technically have Zaid scheduled for 12:30 my time. Had a show last night that got pushed till this morning. Thank you for being as flexible as you are. And I know you have a later afternoon date scheduled up. So what I might want to do, because there's so much to really talk about what transpired last night. As you said, Yankees now have struck out 32 times in the first 2 games. Astros up 2 love there. But it sets up okay for the Yanks. They got Cole going tomorrow. They got Cortez going on Sunday. So they could get to 2-2. We know most likely they're not going to sweep the Astros. They're going to go back probably down 3-2 there. The 76ers now 0-2. We talked about Giannis and the Bucks and that spot there. And it's kind of funny. Listen, guys, everyone that wants to listen that knows me, ECSI, it's not about the logo. It's not about the names on the back. It's about the numbers, okay? Vegas is going to have some misses like anyone else. But when they're sharp, they're sharper than sharp, okay? The Clippers, favored by 5.5 on a neutral site, meaning they both play on, that's their home court. And the Lakers getting 5.5 in technically their home opener, lose by 6. So I know a lot of people that ran to the window that took the Lakers on the bounce back spot. Now, if I was on the Lakers, I would have suggested to buy the hook, take them to 6. 7 would have beat you, so you would have at least pushed there. Huge slate in hockey last night. The college football, I whiffed. I took Georgia Tech team total over. Mm-hmm. They score basically early in the first quarter. They lose their best offensive player, Demarius Thomas, Calvin Johnson weren't walking through that door. A very inept offense there. Shame on me there. But it's Big Ten fucking, Big Ten time. Big Ten time. The stage is yours. You go have some fun with it.
Absolutely, my friend. Before we didn't have too many strong thoughts. We also were leaning towards South Alabama, and that was a 10-6 stinker from what I didn't watch it, but from what it looks like. You said after we say all this, Troy's going to win outright, and that's obviously what happened there. So, 5 games on the Big Ten slate today. Nebraska's off, Illinois is off. I know a lot of people around my parts, including myself, are fiending for some more Illinois football, but they'll have to wait another week for that. A couple more teams out of action. So the first one up here, actually, I'm happy we've got it set up like this. Usually we end with some stinkers on this Big Ten show as far as the back half of the slate. Today, we'll save the best 2 for last year, so it'll build up nicely there. Iowa and Ohio State, you were mentioning it when you were starting off the show here. Iowa at Ohio State here. Ohio State, 100% agree with everything you say. I do not have the interest in running too fast to the window for any Iowa action here necessarily. Ohio State does have a spot next week against Penn State, but I think they understand that the MO of Iowa is a spot where if you show up and sleepwalk and overlook them, then their defense can at least get you. So I don't think they're going to be looking ahead too much here. I don't think they probably are that afraid of Penn State, honestly. Obviously, that's one of the biggest games on their schedule, biggest game on their schedule after Michigan State. But I don't think they're going to be looking ahead here too much here. So to answer your question from the start, I would be much more confident in an Ohio State team to catch 40 points or to get to 40 points than I would be in an Iowa offense that last was seen scoring 6 points on the road at Illinois. Obviously, a good defense this year in Illinois, but it's going to be Spencer Petras having to, if they realistically want to get back into this game when they're down 21-3, which is likely to happen here the first half. Spencer Petras is going to have to be throwing the rock around if that's what they're doing, and it's going to be ugly. So I'm with you. I don't think I'm interested in any Iowa action here. I'm not coming here with my play of the day in this game by any means, but I'd feel better about Ohio State getting there than I would Iowa. What about you?
Yeah, and good eyes on the Penn State look ahead next week. Penn State coming off, I don't want to say laid an egg. Listen, they came off a bye week. They went to the Big House. This Michigan team is better this year than last year. That's number one. Can they match up to the speed of Alabama or Georgia? No, they can't. But they can run the ball. I'm not calling them Nebraska of the 80s, but they can run and move the chains. Now you got basically a one-loss Penn State team who's got a tough game in the whiteout this week at home with Minnesota coming off of 2 losses, which we're going to get to. So, again, I think this is just going to be, I like to say, style points. You brought up this Iowa team that cannot score, first of all. Ohio State is due for a letdown or a clunker. I'm going to keep rolling with them. I think you take the team total over 39.5. If they play a little grab ass early with Iowa, so be it. They know there is no way in holy hell that Iowa offensively can keep up with this team. So I just hope that they don't sleepwalk and absolutely look ahead here.
Right, and I don't think so. It was just funny to me the big noon kickoff keeps getting built up every single week, and it's been some good games lately. But it's all this Ohio State and C.J. Stroud, Jackson Smith, and Jigma going up against Iowa. Then that's the end of the commercial, and they've got no mention of anybody over on Iowa's side of things. They just don't have the same, obviously they haven't had any quarterback play even when they've had good years the last decade or so. But typically they at least have some type of firepower, whether that's an NFL caliber, offensive line or an NFL caliber running back, and that's just not the case this year. So, I won't be losing any sleep over missing Iowa football once the Big Ten season is over. But I'll expect Ohio State to roll here tomorrow.
The only
Yeah.
the only caveat is the fact that with Tennessee beating Bama last week, Mr. Hooker went from 1440 to 400. He is the second, or 440. He's the second favorite in the Heisman. Stroud is the clear favorite now. And that's in the back of the mind of not just CJ, but the Ohio State team. Listen, guys, we got to make sure we score early enough and keep it going. A Tennessee team where what would you say? They've got UT Martin this week. So obviously an easy win for Tennessee. I mean, we could have basically what's the Madden score. We could have a Hooker with 7 touchdown passes in the first half if they want. It really doesn't. It's not a big game style points for them, but numbers do matter in this race. So it will be interesting to see if you get that focused Ohio State team. Let's say 27-3 at halftime, and then they just go ahead and take care of business in the second half.
Right. Yeah, we'll move on for this one. Earlier in the week, it was plus 100 even money for Stroud. Now I'm seeing minus 125 on the Heisman odds there. So shifting a little bit there to odds on favorite there. So I think he's gonna be looking to put up those numbers. And if this was in Iowa, maybe it would be I'd be less interested in the 40-point Ohio State performance, and maybe it would just be a lower scoring blowout. But I think here at home it'll be all right. Next one up, Indiana at Rutgers. I believe that is the other noon game, as long as I'm not mistaken here. Indiana at Rutgers. Let's see, the line moving on this one, it looked like it was 3 for a lot of the week, maybe jumping around from 3 to 3.5. Obviously, this is, if you don't want to get into this game, you don't want to watch this game. I very much understand you here. Indiana's defense is not good at all. 5 straight 30-plus point per game, 5 straight games allowing 30-plus points. Rutgers' offense is not good at all, but their rush defense is at least somewhat capable, so I think they can move the ball here. And Rutgers' defensive numbers are actually pretty solid. Aside from the game against Ohio State, where you expect them to get the doors beat off them like they did, their defense has held up quite a bit here against some of these Big Ten teams. So I'm not going into this game too heavily, but I guess I'll lean towards Rutgers taking care of business in this one. Any thoughts from you on this one?
I look at two teams, as you said. The Indiana defense has not been good. I have a computer model up here of a 45 with a 3. Then the corrected number of 48. It's stuck at 48. So my initial thoughts, I would assume, if my math is correct, 24, 27. So they're probably going to give you that. What are they giving you for a Rutgers team total? Probably around 26 and a hook?
Right on there. It's a 5-point difference as opposed to the 3.5. 26.5 for Rutgers, 21.5 for Indiana.
And I had nailed the Indiana team total over the 24.5 last week. I've been pretty spot on with these team totals here. I think they're pretty good this week. Does Rutgers get to 27? Do they get to 28? Do they get to 30? If I had a small lean on this, I think Rutgers can get you to 27. But I'm not putting a lot of stock into it.
No, it should be a nice weather day, but it wouldn't surprise me if this goes any which way. Maybe a guy from Rutgers goes down and Indiana's pass offense has a nice day. It wouldn't really surprise me. So I'm going to stay away, but again, I'll also lean towards Rutgers in that one as well. Northwestern heading to Maryland for the afternoon game here. 14.5 for Maryland. I don't have strong thoughts on this one. It's kind of eye-opening a little bit. The last since Maryland has joined, Northwestern's 2-0 with a couple big blowouts, but I think it's in 2 of the seasons where Northwestern was actually a pretty good and competent team. So I don't think that's going to be the case necessarily here today. Actually, looking at it, they were Northwestern last time they met was the 14-point favorite. So Maryland, I expect to put up plenty of points on this team in Northwestern here, but at the same time, off of a bye week, it wouldn't surprise me to see Northwestern putting up some points as well. So I don't have the strongest thoughts. I'm almost leaning towards the over in this one, or Northwestern over 18.5. But it's a I don't know. It's an ugly one for sure, but I think we could be seeing some points in this one. What are you thinking? Am I crazy? I will not be offended if you think this one's going to be low scoring at all.
No, the Maryland, when you think of Maryland, you think of overs and offense. And I've kind of found a soft spot lately in college team totals. There's a magic number, which I'm going to get to. Last week, 5-0 on college totals. And I'm just doing some quick math here. Again, I don't have the team totals up here. My question to you, and it's a 14 with a 51.5. Did they give us the magic number of 33.5 on Maryland, or did they go a little lower?
I see 32.5 over minus 125 on DraftKings here. I'm going to double check over on another one to see if that's the same number there, but 32.5 minus 125 to the over.
You know, and that's why I'm saying the magic number has been the 32.5. Really, the magic number's been 33.5. And I keep looking and looking. So anyone watching and listening that likes team totals or looking for another option, go through your spreadsheets wherever you go. DraftKings, FanDuel. I use Wager Talk. If you see some 33.5s, highlight them. And I'm not telling you to go drop a full unit on them. Want some pizza and beer money, whatever, but 5-0 last week. So 32.5 to me. I know it's this Maryland team. And you say to yourself, okay, is it going to get stuck on 31? That's what you're worried about. Am I going to get a missed extra point? Can they get to 33, 34, 35? With a Northwestern 18.5, will there be some resilience back and forth? Instead of taking the over 51.5, slight lean to Maryland team total over 32.5.
I think I'm with you. I'll go Maryland in, honestly, the game total as well. Excuse me. Talia Tagovailoa, Tua's younger brother, quarterback for Maryland, still technically a game time decision. I imagine he's going to be playing in this one, and he'll be looking fine, ready to put up a kind of a statement game. I mean, this Maryland team, they're 5-2, I think. This is obviously the most winnable game left on their schedule. It gets tougher after this. They've got a couple winnable games, but they obviously, I think they've got 3. They have never, since they joined the Big Ten, they have not had an 8-win season. They've still got this game, obviously, Maryland and Rutgers to try and get to 8 wins here with Penn State and Ohio State mixed in. So they're going to be looking to get to 8 wins for the first time since joining the Big Ten here.
My notes, Helinski, questionable concussion protocol right now. And for Tua, leg considered game time decision. Vegas with the 14.5 point spread is banking on Tua. Obviously, keep a close eye on that if you're leaning on Maryland. If you do get a Tua scratch, that line will obviously change. So if you get any inside information that he's out, maybe Northwestern is a live dog.
Yeah. Nope. Definitely. I agree with that for sure. And you notice I've gone far away from my any interest in Northwestern here, even more so after the last few weeks here. So that was one of my worst, definitely my worst Big Ten take of the year. So with a successful season, I'll take that as a sacrifice. So last 2 games, very, very interesting games here for the Big Ten. Solid implications on whether it's the Big Ten West or just the Big Ten in general here. Purdue at Wisconsin. This one is an interesting one. You've got Purdue 5-2, an underdog at 2.5 point underdog at Wisconsin here. I don't know what the number is, but Wisconsin's got a monster winning streak over Purdue right now. But that does date back to when Purdue was an ugly program, and Wisconsin was going to Rose Bowls with Brett Bielema. So if you're interested in the trap spot here with what it looks like, I will not stop you at all. I personally am going to take into stock what I've been saying about Purdue and call BS on this line here. I am not impressed by what Wisconsin has done the last 2 weeks. Pass offense still mediocre last week against a terrible Michigan State defense. Got the loss in overtime. Braylon Allen, running back, has been very good the last 2 weeks against Northwestern Michigan State. this Purdue rushing defense isn't getting enough credit. They're 28th in yards per carry allowed. And this Wisconsin pass defense has had success against a lot of bad teams. You look at their schedule; it's the big point output against Ohio State for their defense. A lot of these other games are against not very competent offenses. So I'm a big believer in Purdue. I understand if you want to fade the public on this one, fade the potential trap spot. Why is Purdue an underdog here, despite what their record is and what we've seen and what we've seen from Wisconsin? If you want to buy into all that, I get it. If it wasn't Purdue, I'd probably be doing the same thing. But I'm calling BS, and I'm taking Purdue on the point. Actually, I'm taking them on the money line. I think they win this game outright. If they win this one, they've still got a chance to take the Big Ten West if they can beat Illinois in a couple of weeks. So I'm buying into Purdue here and calling BS on this line, my friend.
It reminds me of, when I talk about you betting LSU, you're really not. You're betting Brian Kelly. I think the same can be said here with Wisconsin, meaning, listen, they've had some struggles, okay? Yeah. And were they peaking? I mean, we talked about them against Michigan State. Michigan State was well overdue for a good game. I kind of thought that number would kind of stunk to high heaven there. Is this a bounce back spot for Wisconsin?
You know what? It would normally if this was a different circumstance, I would totally understand if they're coming home off of a rough season and making a statement here. I would understand that. I'm honestly just calling BS as far as this team is concerned. I don't think they're good enough to be favored in this spot. I think Purdue is good enough. I don't think they're getting enough respect. If you want to disagree with me, I will not be upset with you. 9 times out of 10, when I see a play like this on my card, I'm taking the favorite. But in this situation, I'm calling BS, and I'm riding the hot hand that I've had. I've made some money with Purdue, so I'm rolling with the train. Again, if you disagree with me, I understand, but I'm rolling with the Boilermakers train to still have a realistic shot at running the table and taking the Big Ten West title here.
Did they give you a Purdue number of 23.5 on the team total?
24.5.
All right. What'd they give you for Wisconsin?
26.5 over minus 125.
So they're basically trying to tell you 27-24.
Right.
This team's got me a couple times, but I'll give you a slight lean to the Purdue team total over 24.5.
Fair enough. No, I get it. I understand. But, yeah, I've been talking highly about this Purdue team. I think they should be 7-0 for that matter, and maybe that would lead you to believe that maybe this is still even more a trap. But, again, I am calling BS on this one. This is my BS line of the year in the Big Ten. If you want to laugh at me when they lose, then by all means, I understand it. I can see it a mile away. But I'm calling BS on it. So we can move to the next one where Minnesota and Penn State. I am very interested. Obviously, if you've been listening to me, I've been interested in Minnesota in a great deal of spots here this year. But after 2 losses, I think they've got a good spot here today or tomorrow against Penn State. +5. This one's been jumping around a little bit. I saw it down to 4.5. Now I'm seeing it back up to 5.5. I think this Penn State rush defense could be in for it again here. Obviously, you've heard me talk about Ibrahim and how high I am on him. Tough rush defense last week against Illinois, 15 carries, 127 yards. And if you look through Penn State's schedule, obviously the rush offense of Michigan beat the doors off of them. And then you look back through Penn State's schedule, they haven't really been tested in that department at all, whether it's because that team just doesn't have a rushing game or maybe against, for example, the game against Auburn. Their running back has a decent yards per carry total, but obviously they're getting blown out, so they got to pass the rock a little bit to try and get back into that game. I think Ibrahim's going to have a huge day for Minnesota here today, and this Penn State defense could be looking a little gas again here with Ibrahim running through it here. So I'm leaning towards I'm taking the 5.5, wherever you caught it. I caught it at 5. I was happy to see it go down to 4.5, 4. Now it's back up to 5.5. So curious why you think that might be. But I'm interested in Minnesota quite a bit here. I could see Penn State getting this win, but I think this is going to be a close game at the end of the day, and it might come down to the last minute here, Jeff.
I was surprised. We talked earlier in the week a line that opened up 4.5, which to me, as we spoke about earlier in the week, was definitely a Minnesota number there. Overnight, there has been some money coming in on Penn State. So whether some people are tuned in to how practice is going, we have Ron on Tuesdays, and Ron has said historically teams that start the year 5-0 with a loss usually lose again the next week. It's hard for them to get back up to that level. Now you got to go to Penn State coming off a week off. They had their season, they had their Final Four hopes, their Big Ten all on the line, and to be honest, they got their ass handed to them. It was the Wolverines all the way. Now, I think they try to do to counter this is they have the whiteout this week against Minnesota. So now you got a Minnesota team who you've talked about very, very highly, and a lot of people have talked about, losers of 2 in a row. Their season is on the line here. Mm-hmm. Now, Penn State's season's on the line. They don't want to be where Minnesota is, staring at 2 losses in a row, knowing they got to go play Ohio State next week. Now, the landscape would love to see an undefeated Ohio State team versus a 1-loss Penn State team versus an Ohio State team versus a 2-loss Penn State team, losers of 2 in a row. So when I paint that picture that way, how do you peel the onion back there?
Maybe it keeps me away from the Minnesota money line, but I really think this Penn State rush defense could be a little exposed here tomorrow. But at the end of the day, I mean, Minnesota has a legitimate chance if they can, regardless of if they win or lose. If they could pull off the upset, then fantastic for them. They've still got a realistic chance at the Big Ten West if they can win this game, because their schedule after this, 5 games left, I think. Rutgers, Nebraska, Northwestern, Iowa, and Wisconsin. They could rattle off 5 wins, no problem, right after this. So they're going to be motivated to get this one. Like I said, maybe it keeps me away from the money line, but I think this Minnesota rush offense can have a nice stretch here today, or again tomorrow. I keep saying today, but even last year, Minnesota 9-4 team last year, 2-week stretch of back-to-back losses. Illinois was included in that last year as well, and then bounced back and have 2 really nice wins. I can't remember who it was. One of them was a ranked team as well. Maybe not right away out of that 2-week stretch, but I've got some trust in Minnesota here. The whiteout scares me. I won't be. I will be honest with you, though. That environment is maybe the best in college football. Certainly top 5. So that definitely concerns me a bit. But I like Minnesota to cover spread here, Jeff. I will still stand firm with that.
7:30 start. I get chills from that whiteout. That place is electric. Maybe all the Penn State people. Basically, in a nutshell, might want to jump in on the first half, maybe. The fact is, the crowd, the whiteout, the chills that I get every time I see that. I do agree with you, by the way, with the run and attack of Minnesota. It used to be way, way back. Might have been before your time. The M&M boys, where Patriot was Maroney, and then the other guy was from Dallas, and I'm drawing a blank right now.
I'm not sure. Sounds like before my time, yeah.
That was before, Lawrence Maroney and
I know Lawrence Maroney.
Yeah, I'm forgetting the other M, so I only have M of the M&M guys there. I guess closing thoughts for the Big Ten for this week in regards to how the landscape is shaping up. I know we're on a collision course, most likely, to an Ohio State, Michigan, both teams undefeated. Again, the look-ahead line's like around 13 or 14. I think the real line's closer to 9.5, 10. That's where it'll be if both teams are undefeated.
Yep, and that does appear to where it's going. Michigan obviously off this week, but I'm just trying to look at their schedule real quick. They get Michigan State, who obviously huge rivalry, their little brother. But that one's at the Big House next week, so in prime time, I don't think they'll slip up on that one. They get Rutgers, Nebraska. I guess Illinois could be the trap game right before Ohio State. I don't know. They get Illinois a week before Ohio State. The way Illinois' rush defense is playing, who knows? Maybe that can be a stingy, tough matchup for Michigan. I don't know. That would be a rough one for the college football landscape, Bill, in that Ohio State game if Illinois spoils that party, but I wouldn't be holding my breath for that one. But as far as the Big Ten West, like I said with Purdue, if they can win that game against Wisconsin. If they lose, then obviously Illinois is the only one-loss team in the Big Ten West in the conference standings. But Purdue gets Iowa next week. Then if they beat Wisconsin and Iowa and Illinois wins the next couple of weeks, the Illinois-Purdue game could be the decider for the Big Ten West. So that one would be, for people like me, would be a huge matchup. But obviously not as many people are interested in the Big Ten West here. Nebraska 2-2, not totally dead yet. If these teams keep cannibalizing themselves and they run the table, they'll have a shot. They get Illinois and Purdue on their schedule. So Nebraska not dead by any means either. So. Or I'm sorry, they just played Purdue. My bad. Nebraska still got Illinois on their schedule though. But nonetheless, it's an exciting time for the Big Ten. You know what I'm worried about though? Someone presented this the other day. What was it? Tennessee loses to Georgia, and then Georgia loses to Alabama, and then Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee all have one loss. What shakes out if that's the case? I guess Alabama obviously has the one-loss team winning the SEC gets in. Does Tennessee and Georgia, either one of those, get in for sure if they're a one-loss team? I guess Georgia getting the win over Tennessee still puts them in, right?
Well, here's what happens if you're playing out that scenario. Okay.
Yeah.
Alabama with a one loss, I'm assuming, would face an undefeated Georgia team in the SEC title, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So Georgia would beat Tennessee to get Tennessee to one loss, and then a Georgia undefeated Alabama one loss, and then Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship. All three would have one loss.
So Alabama's in, and the undefeated number one ranked team in the country, Georgia, would not slip 5 spots, and Georgia would move down from 2 or 3. Actually, let's just play the game. Ohio State runs the gamut, and they're undefeated. They do not lose all year. They win the Big Ten title. So what would happen is a number 1 Georgia, a number 2 Ohio State, a number 3 Bama, or a number 4 wherever they're. Let's say Clemson stays undefeated. They're 3, and then Bama's 4. Okay, what would happen very simply is Alabama would leapfrog. They would go to 2. They would go to 2. Ohio State would go to 1, and they would drop Georgia to 3, and they'd leave Clemson. Here's a funny. A Georgia loss and a Clemson win, Clemson would drop a spot, and then Georgia would slide into the 3 spot.
I guess what I'm making sure is making sure there's not going to be 3 teams out of the SEC making the 4-team dance as far as that is concerned. Hey, I mean, if there's some mass chaos and we've got Clemson losing games and the Big 12 and Pac-12 losing games, that I wouldn't count it out, but that would be some chaos for sure. So, don't count out the old Illinois Fighting Illini as far as a one-loss team either. No, I'm kidding. But, no, that's, as far as Illinois is concerned, that's just been an awesome 6-1 season. Even if they lose out, that's still a nice building block season for them as well. But nonetheless, anything else you'd like to chat about before we get out of here, my friend?
Well, you're bringing up some interesting scenarios because the Pac-12 that no one watches and no one cares about has an undefeated UCLA team, but 6-point dogs at Oregon there. So potentially Oregon beats them. So then you got a 1-loss USC, a 1-loss UCLA, a 2-loss Utah. And I think Oregon has – I know they lost to Georgia opening week. Have they lost since? 1. Okay.
No, just the 1.
So that will be mess. So the one case the Big 12 is, listen, the best team right now in the Big 12 has 2 losses, correct? And that's Texas?
Let's see. Yeah, yep, 2 losses.
And because they lost, Ewers is back, and they go to Oklahoma State this week. 6-point favorites, or 6.5-point favorites. So that's comedy. But here's the funny. Ohio State goes into the Big Ten with 1 undefeated. Who's going to be on the other side of them? Who are they going to face?
As far as the Big Ten West?
Yeah.
Illinois, Purdue, Nebraska. Yeah, one of these. Minnesota, Illinois, likely Illinois or Purdue, I guess, is what the likely answer is. Yeah.
Ohio State will be about 17-point favorites. If they were ever to lose that game, which I'm just hypothetically, a 1-loss Ohio State team this year with potential Heisman C.J. Stroud carries a lot of weight. Now, if Alabama doesn't win the SEC, There's no Marty. I hope you're listening to this. Alabama 2-loss team is not getting in this year. Okay, you would need a miracle. So you got to sheet and face Georgia, and hopefully Georgia's undefeated, and they don't show you the whole playbook like last year, and they allow you to sneak out the win and get into this. So it's pretty set if Alabama sheets and Georgia does their business and Ohio State. Those three are in. So then it comes down to a Clemson. What happens in the Pac-12? Clemson's the wild card. They got a sheet because a one-loss Clemson in the ACC is not carrying the weight this year.
No. Well, so I think it was last week when we the hypothetical for USC, if they could have gotten the win over Utah, was undefeated Clemson or undefeated USC who gets in. Now it's undefeated UCLA or undefeated Clemson who would get in, UCLA or Clemson if they're both undefeated and there's only one spot left.
What was that again?
So last week it was USC hypothetical if they were undefeated, but now it's UCLA. If hypothetically UCLA and Clemson are undefeated, but there's only one spot left because it's Ohio State, Georgia, and Alabama in the top three, who gets in on that fourth spot, Clemson or UCLA?
For the sake of college football, I would hope that they throw the Pac-12 a bone. I know Clemson's been there. They've won national titles with Lawrence, with Deshaun Watson. I give the Pac-12 the lean this year over the ACC from top to bottom.
I think I'm with you. And you trying to hype UCLA's move to the Big Ten, maybe also on top of that as well. We haven't talked about undefeated TCU. They've kind of got a gauntlet of the tough matchups, though. I don't see that likely of them staying undefeated. They've got a tough one this weekend. They've still got Texas, so probably not going to have an undefeated Big 12 team either to throw into the ring here. But I guess hypothetically, does TCU beat out both those teams with their resume if they're undefeated? Because they've got three or four or they still got 2 or 3 ranked matchups left on their schedule.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull them. Where are they this week?
They are home against K-State, who I think actually they could lose this week. K-State's tough. They're only 3.5-point favorites at home. I actually think I have K-State the points in that game.
Well, we know Kelly Stewart does, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, an undefeated TCU team. No, I don't think they get in. I don't. I think it's a great story. Wow, that's a good question. I'm enamored because I think the Pac-12 is very exciting this year. The addition of Lincoln Riley. I mean, Utah went for 2 last week. I mean, first one to 50 basically won that game. So they got 1 loss by a 2-point conversion. They lost by 1 there. This UCLA team with Chip Kelly is a great story. They're undefeated. Again, 6-point dogs to Oregon this week. A Utah team that returned 19 starters, heavily talked about, loses because of a pick at the end of the game in Florida and then stumbles against UCLA, now beats USC. It's just enticing, and not enough people follow the damn Pac-12. And then you're dismantling it when next year? Are they coming to you?
I don't even know what the year is that they're making the move. I feel like they might have 1 or 2 more. I could be totally wrong. I should know that, but I honestly don't know the year.
Interesting. Another great week of talk for the Big Ten. Some great stuff. You and I will chat about later today and the rest of the weekend. For everyone following us or not following us, you can follow myself at EC Sports Invest. You can obviously follow Riley at Riley_Magnuson, the 1. You can catch us usually morning, afternoon, evenings, at least twice a day. Closing bells, breakfast bankrolls, midday market report. Whenever we can get out there, we're going to get out there. I know you got a pretty big NBA slate tonight, don't you?
I've dove into it a little bit. I've got to plug my. I already just released right before we started my. I'll be doing a one best bet for every Bulls game. I already released that out. Bulls could be in an interesting spot on the spread. I did not take the Bulls on the spread tonight, but got a point player prop for that one. But yeah, decent NBA slate tonight. I have only delved through it a little bit. I was gearing up for some football stuff as far as this show and also the entire weekend UFC stuff. So I've got some stuff to dive into tonight. But I don't know. It's the potential fade the public Friday spots. But as we've seen already for the first 3 days, the mind games, or whether they're trying to do some mind games and it's not working, I don't know. The lines for me, it takes me a few days to start seeing the board well in the NBA. So I'm not sure how many plays I'll have tonight, but I'll be working here the next couple of hours to figure out if I've got anything I like.
From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from the one and only Riley Magnuson at Riley_Magnuson, the one. We wish everyone a blessed day. The weekend's here. Don't be the pizza man. We'll be back later this afternoon, but I will actually be back in about 6-7 minutes with Zaid Hussein. We're talking UFC 280.
Yes.
Big card. Zaid's all fired up. I'm fired up. And hopefully me and Riley will circle the wagons and we'll catch up later this afternoon. See you soon.